Across the silent stars, a forgotten signal began to move again, carrying a code older than memory itself. The message traveled through dark space, waking machines that had slept for 10,000 years deep under a dead sun. The great vaults of the Galactic Empire opened their eyes again. Inside the core world of Clitherion, massive engines began to spin. The planet's crust trembled as towers of metal rose from the ashes, ancient warships lifted from buried hangars, their black hulls glowing. With strange energy, the Empire was waking, and it remembered what it once owned. On the bridge of the first awakened dreadnought, the Imperial Overseer watched the stars appear on his holomap. His voice was calm, but carried the weight of command. He ordered the machines to repair the fleet, to gather strength, and to send the signal across the galaxy that the Empire had returned. Throughout the Milky Way, alien races felt the signal touch their networks. The old ones whispered in fear the Empire. They thought destroyed was alive again. Some called it the return of gods, others called it the end of freedom. Entire councils gathered in panic. No one knew what the Empire wanted, only that it had once ruled everything, and no one had survived its rule before. Far away in a blue system called Sol, humanity was unaware at first. The Terran network detected strange echoes in deep space. The readings were not natural. A repeating sequence pulsing every 20 minutes, the same tone, the same pattern. When the message was decoded, it was written in a language no one had ever seen before, yet it carried a meaning every human could feel. It said, "Kneel before your betters, or burn with your stars." The words spread across the Terran colonies faster than light. News networks played it again and again. Scientists tried to analyze it. Politicians argued, soldiers prepared, and deep inside every human heart, something ancient awoke, something that refused to kneel. The United Earth Council gathered. In orbit around Earth, inside the massive station called Atlas Prime, world leaders, commanders and AI strategists discussed the message. The Emperor of the old empire was demanding submission. Humanity was faced with a choice: surrender or resist. Admiral Kane stood before the council, his uniform dark, his eyes calm. He had fought in the Outer Rim Wars. He knew what pride and power meant. He listened to the message once more, and then spoke. "Humanity has come too far to kneel to ghosts. We will answer, but in our own way." The council agreed. Silence filled the hall. The order was given. The Terran Defense Network would move to high alert. Within hours, fleets across the colonies prepared their weapons. The Ares fleet stationed near Neptune was ordered to scan for unidentified movement, and there it was, a small vessel entering from deep void space, dark like a shadow, moving without heat signature. A scout ship from the Empire. The first contact since the awakening. The humans tried communication. There was no response. The ship simply watched, orbiting in silence, before sending a pulse of energy toward Earth sensors. Read it as a scan, but it felt like a threat. The humans fired a warning shot, a beam of light cutting across the dark. The scout ship vanished into hyperspace without firing back. But the message was clear. The Empire now knew humanity existed. In the following days, human intelligence intercepted more transmissions across nearby sectors. They spoke of fleet construction and mobilization. The Empire was rebuilding. Entire systems were being stripped of material. Ancient factories running again. The galaxy was changing fast, and no one could stop it. The Terran Council decided to send an exploration team to locate the source of the signal. A small group of scientists and marines boarded the vessel, Horizon, a sleek new ship built for deep space missions. As they left orbit, Earth watched them go. The crew felt the weight of the entire species on their shoulders. They were going to see the rebirth of something older than all of them. Meanwhile, on the Empire's homeworld, the Emperor himself woke from cryo-sleep. His eyes opened to the light of artificial suns, his body frail, yet filled with fire around him. Machines Bowed, waiting for command, he spoke slowly. "Bring me the galaxy. Bring me their submission. In the darkness between stars." The horizon moved closer to the origin point. What they found there was not a planet, but a giant structure floating around a black star. An entire city of metal and glass, still alive, still powered, still breathing. The humans had found the heart of the Empire. They watched in silence as thousands of lights turned on across the massive station. Ancient war banners appeared, symbols. Glowing with unknown energy, the Empire was not returning. It had already returned and was waiting for humanity to make the next move. The crew of the Horizon sent one last transmission back to Earth before their signal vanished into static. "Admiral Kane, listen to the broken words. We have seen them. They are awake and they are coming. Across every human world, alarms began to sound. Fleets launched into the void. The greatest challenge in human history had begun, and humanity would not run. They would not kneel. They would answer." The message from the Horizon reached Earth only once before it was lost. Their words were broken, filled with fear and static, but one thing was clear: the Empire was awake, and it was coming. The Terran Council knew. There was no time to wait. Admiral Kane stood before the great window of the Atlas Prime Station, looking out at the dark sea of stars around Earth. Below him, the blue planet glowed calm and beautiful, yet he knew it was no longer safe. The Empire had already marked it. The council members argued behind him. Some wanted to hide behind the solar defense grid, others wanted to send peace signals. But Kane knew empires did not understand peace. They only understood strength. He ordered the Ares fleet to move beyond Neptune, forming a wall of ships across the outer edge of the solar system. Over 200 warships stood ready, every engine glowing like a small sun. They were the pride of humanity, fast, deadly, and built for survival. Then, the scanners caught movement, a distortion in the void. A shadow forming near the edge of human space. The first Imperial fleet had arrived. They came through a massive rift, tearing open space. Itself giant ships older than human civilization there, armor shining with ancient energy, each vessel shaped like a blade, ready to cut through worlds. The first contact was silent for hours, both sides staring at each other across the endless dark. Then a voice came across every human channel, deep, powerful, and calm. "This is the Empire. Return your worlds to our control, or they will be erased. Humanity's time is over." Kane looked at his officers, the bridge, quiet, every man and woman waiting for his word. He spoke with steady voice. "Transmit, reply, this is humanity. We do not kneel." The message was sent. The war began. The Empire moved first. Their dreadnoughts opened fire beams of white energy, cut through space faster than light, striking the human defense line. The impact shook ships apart, entire. Cruisers vanished in fire and light, yet humanity stood its ground. Human gunners returned fire. Rail cannons unleashed storms of metal. Plasma batteries fired in unison. The void filled with chaos. The battle near Neptune became the bloodiest first. Contact in history. Fighters darted between giant ships. Explosions painted the darkness red and gold. The humans were losing. At first, their weapons barely scratched the ancient hulls of the Imperial warships, but then the engineers adapted. They rerouted power, used gravity lances to bend space around the enemy armor. The first Imperial ship shattered into pieces, its wreck glowing like a broken star. The humans cheered and fought harder. Admiral Kane watched from his command deck, his hands steady, his eyes never blinking. He saw the Empire's strength and their weakness. They fought with old pride. They underestimated humanity. His fleet was learning faster every minute. Human AI calculated every move, predicting enemy paths, using the Empire's own energy trails against them. As passed, fleets burned. The Empire unleashed drones, small black orbs swarming across human ships, cutting through metal and crew alike. Human marines boarded the enemy dreadnoughts in return, fighting. In narrow halls filled with fire and smoke, the Empire soldiers were taller, stronger, faster. But the humans were more desperate, and their desperation made them unstoppable. In the chaos, the Imperial flagship appeared massive beyond imagination, surrounded. By a shield of light, its captain demanded surrender again. Admiral Kane refused. He ordered the entire Ares fleet to focus on the flagship. All cannons aligned, the air filled with the sound of charging energy. Thousands of beams struck at once. The Imperial shield cracked, the ancient armor began to melt, the flagship's core overloaded, and for the first time in 10,000 years, an Imperial command ship was destroyed. The explosion lit up the dark like a new sun. The Empire's fleet faltered. Their formations broke. The remaining ships pulled back into the rift. The battle was over. Humanity had survived, but at a terrible cost. Half of the Ares fleet was gone. Thousands dead ships burned across the black. But they had won the first strike. Across the galaxy, the news spread fast. Alien worlds that had once feared humanity now whispered their name with awe. The Empire had found an enemy that would not break. The Empire's own scouts reported to their Emperor that the humans were dangerous, adaptable, unpredictable. The Emperor listened and smiled. For the first time in centuries, he had found a worthy challenge. Back on Earth, memorials were built for the fallen. Every colony lit candles for the dead. But there was no time to mourn. New fleets were being built, new weapons tested. Scientists studied the wreckage of the Imperial ships, their materials, their energy cores, everything. Humanity learned faster than ever before, and with every discovery they grew stronger. Admiral Kane stood once more before the window of Atlas Prime, watching the debris of battle drift in the distance. He whispered to himself, "They came for us, and we answered. And next time we will not just defend, we will strike back." Across the stars, the Empire prepared its next move, vengeance rising like fire in the heart of every commander. The Emperor's orders were clear. Prepare the Second Fleet, bring Earth to its knees. Humanity had drawn first blood, and the Empire would not forgive. The galaxy waited, holding its breath between fear and hope, knowing that this was only the beginning. The War of Suns had begun, and neither side would ever be the same again. The stars were quiet again after the great battle near Neptune, but the silence felt strange. It was not peace, it was only the deep breath before the next storm across human space. People rebuilt their stations, repaired ships, and buried their dead. Every soldier knew the Empire would return stronger than before. Inside the Terran archive on Luna, scientists worked day and night, studying the wreckage from the Imperial fleet. They found strange markings on the metal, a language older than anything known. One historian, Dr. Mira Holden, began to compare the symbols with ancient human records. She discovered something impossible. The shapes were familiar, very old, almost human. She presented her findings before the Council on Atlas Prime. The hall was filled with commanders and leaders. Her voice steady as she spoke. "The Empire may not be alien at all," she said. "Their DNA, their symbols, their design patterns all connect with ancient human data. We might share a common origin." The council fell silent. Some called it madness. Others demanded proof. Admiral Kane watched quietly, thinking about the Emperor's strange words. In the message, "Kneel before your betters." What if those betters were once human themselves? What if the Empire was humanity's forgotten past? Meanwhile, deep in the ruins of the destroyed Imperial ship, engineers unlocked a surviving memory core. The data inside was fragmented, but what they saw shook them. The Empire had once ruled 1,000,000 systems and then vanished after a great internal war. The cause was Unknown, the record ended with a phrase. The sons of terror turned away from the light. Kane read the translation again and again. The sons of terror. The words echoed inside his mind. He called Dr. Holden and asked her to continue her research. They needed to know if humanity was connected to this ancient power, because if it was true, then the Empire would not stop until they reclaimed what they believed was theirs. Across the galaxy in the Imperial capital, the Emperor stood before his war council, his golden armor reflecting the light of artificial suns. Reports arrived from the front. The humans had destroyed a fleet built from the old era. His generals demanded vengeance, but the Emperor raised his hand and spoke softly. Not yet. They are not what I expected. Their blood burns like ours. Their rage is familiar. I want to know who they truly are. He ordered his spies and historians to search the forbidden archives to uncover the lost history of the first human exiles who had fled to the stars during the fall of the old empire. Some records spoke of a rebellion, of those who refused to follow the Emperor's eternal rule. They had left through unknown gates, taking their worlds with them. Perhaps those rebels became the humans of Earth. In the dark vaults of the Empire, ancient machines came alive, searching through endless data streams. The Emperor watched the images of human faces appearing on his screens. He whispered to himself, "We made them, and now they rise against us." Back in human space, strange events began to occur. Imperial transmissions intercepted near the colony of Eos, strange artifacts found buried under Martian soil, all showing the same symbol, the mark of the old empire. Dr. Holden traveled to Mars to study it. She discovered a buried temple older than any human building. Inside walls were carved with figures of humans kneeling before a ruler surrounded by stars. Above the figures was written the same phrase, "The sons of terror turned away." She sent her findings to Admiral Kane, who read them in silence. He realized humanity was not just fighting an invader, they were fighting their own forgotten ancestors. The truth was heavier than war. It meant that somewhere in their blood, the Empire's shadow still lived. When the news reached the public, chaos followed. Some believed the Empire had the right to rule again. Others refused the idea entirely. Protests began across colonies. Debates filled every network. Who were the true heirs of the stars? Humanity divided itself with questions that had no answers. Admiral Kane stood before his officers and spoke. Humanity has always been divided, yet it is our division that gives us strength. We think different, we fight different. That is why we survive. We may share their blood, but we are not their slaves. We will prove it through action, not words. At the same time, the Empire sent a message across the galaxy to every world under its command. The Emperor declared the return of the lost sons of the galaxy would soon be united again under one rule. His rule. The message reached human space like a threat wrapped in prophecy, and fear spread across every colony. Human fleets gathered once more. The Second War was coming, and this time it would not be for survival. It would be for identity. Humanity had to decide what it truly was, the lost children of an ancient empire or something entirely new. As the fleets moved into position and the stars glowed with engine fire, Admiral Kane whispered to himself, "We are not their lost sons. We are their answer, and we will show them what the new humanity means." Far away in the Imperial capital, the Emperor stood before a hologram of Earth and smiled. The echoes of the old war were awake again, and soon the galaxy would remember who ruled it once before. The red world of Mars had always been the pride of humanity, its first colony, its first home beyond Earth. The domed cities shimmered under the thin sky, glowing with light and life. But now, those lights were fading one by one. Strange things had begun to happen across the Martian surface. Security systems failed. Without warning, communication lines went dark. Supply convoys vanished in the dust storms. The Terran Intelligence Division believed it was sabotage. Admiral Kane sent his best teams to investigate, but what they found was worse than anyone imagined. Deep under the surface, an abandoned mining zone had come alive. The scanners showed movement heat signatures unknown to human databases. Teams entered the tunnels carrying rifles and drones. What they saw there froze them. The shadows moved like living smoke, wearing armor of dark light. The figures were tall, silent, and deadly. Imperial assassins had come to Mars. The Empire had learned from its first defeat. They no longer fought only in space. Now they fought in the shadows. Their mission was clear: strike the colonies from within, break the unity of humanity before the next war began, and they were doing it with precision. Every assassination, every explosion, every whisper was planned. On the surface of New Olympus City, panic spread as explosions tore through the domes. Civilians ran through streets filled with smoke and fire. The Terran Guard fought back. But the enemy moved like ghosts. They used old technology to vanish between moments. They struck and disappeared, leaving only silence behind. Dr. Mira Halden was on Mars when the attacks began. She had come to study the ancient ruins beneath the colony. She barely escaped as her lab exploded, her research lost forever. She sent one desperate message to Admiral Kane before her signal cut out. They are here. They walk among us. Kane received the message aboard the command ship, Resolute, orbiting Earth. He knew it was not a random attack. It was the Empire testing their defenses. He ordered the activation of Project Valkyrie, a classified program hidden beneath the deserts of Australia. Project Valkyrie was born from desperation, a group of enhanced soldiers combining human instinct with machine precision. Their strength was unmatched, their speed beyond natural limits. They were called demons in human skin. The Empire would soon learn why. Within days, the Valkyrie unit was deployed to Mars, their drop pods cutting through the red sky like falling stars. They landed in the ruins of New Olympus, moving through smoke and silence. Their leader, Captain Rhea Cole, gave no speeches. She simply said, "One order, hunt them all." The battle beneath the Martian surface was chaos. The Imperial assassins fought with ancient grace, their blades humming with energy. The Valkyrie soldiers moved like storms, every strike precise, every shot deadly. The tunnels shook with their war metal clashing with like screams echoing through endless corridors. The humans fought not just for victory, but for revenge. As the fighting raged, the Terran fleet arrived in orbit, deploying drones to scan for hidden Imperial bases. They found one buried deep beneath Valles Marineris, an entire outpost built secretly by the Empire. Years before the awakening, Kane ordered its destruction. Nuclear charges were dropped. The canyon glowed white, and the shadow base was gone. But the cost was heavy. Half of Mars lay in ruins, millions dead. The air filled with dust and sorrow. The Empire had failed to conquer the colony, but it had succeeded in sending a message: no world was safe, no line of defense unbreakable. The war had come to every home when the survivors gathered. In the remaining domes, Admiral Kane spoke through every screen, his voice steady as iron. He told them humanity had faced darkness before and survived. We will rebuild Mars. He said, we will remember our dead, and we will not hide in fear. We are not. Pray, we are the storm across the galaxy. The Emperor listened to the intercepted broadcast, his golden eyes cold as he watched the images of Valkyrie soldiers cutting through his assassins. He turned to his generals and spoke. They create monsters to fight monsters they have learned too well. Prepare the purge fleets. The next war will burn their skies. In the following weeks, human engineers turned Mars into a fortress, massive cannons built into mountains, orbital shields forming above. The planet humanity refused to surrender, even in loss. The red planet became a symbol across human space, a symbol of resistance. Dr. Halden survived the attack. She continued her research, now guarded under highest security. She discovered fragments of an imperial message hidden within the ruins. It spoke of something ancient, buried deeper than the Empire itself. a weapon or maybe a secret. She did not understand, but she knew it was important. She sent it to Admiral Kane, who read it in silence, and knew the Empire was not the only danger awakening in the dark. The shadows of Mars had changed everything. Humanity had seen the face of the Empire up close and survived again. But they also knew the real war had not yet begun above the red horizon. The first sunrise after the siege painted the sky gold and crimson. The survivors looked up and whispered a single promise. Never again. The galaxy had not known silence since the war began. Entire sectors burned under fire. Fleets patrolled the dark. Emptiness between stars, wrecks of ships drifted like ghosts. But on one day, everything changed. A voice rose across every communication channel, every planet, every ship, every colony heard it at once. The voice was deep, filled with power and calm. It spoke in every language of the stars. It said, "I am the Emperor, the one who ruled before memory, the one who forged the stars into empire. I have awakened, and I see what my children have become. Chaos, rebellion, division. I see the lost sons of terror rise against their maker, and I offer them one chance: return and rebuild the empire beside me, or vanish into the dust of history." On Earth, in the halls of the Terran Council, the voice echoed through every speaker. Leaders stood frozen. Admiral Kane looked up as the light dimmed, his mind filled with questions. The Emperor was not only powerful, he was alive, connected to every machine in the galaxy through something older than technology, across human space. Some listened with awe, others with rage. Some believed the Emperor was a god who had come to reclaim his throne. They formed movements calling themselves the True Sons, sending messages of surrender to the Empire, but others prepared for war, determined never to kneel. Dr. Mira Holden listened to the transmission from her lab on Mars. She analyzed the wave patterns and found something strange hidden in the signal. A code repeating under the Emperor's words. It was not a command. It was a probe. It was scanning human minds across the network, measuring emotions and thoughts. She realized the Emperor was not speaking to humans. He was studying them. She contacted Admiral Kane, her voice urgent, telling him the Emperor was trying to find weakness, not just in weapons, but in hearts. Kane understood. He ordered a galaxy-wide blackout, cutting off every colony from the central network. For the first time in centuries, humanity went silent by choice. The Emperor's voice no longer reached them, but silence had its cost. Chaos spread. Trade stopped, communication broke down, and fear grew. Without the shared link, humanity felt alone again, and that loneliness was exactly what the Emperor wanted: to create division, to break unity, to make them easy to conquer. Days later, a new transmission appeared, but this time it came from Admiral Kane himself, standing before a giant window showing the blue curve of Earth. He spoke with calm fire. "This is Admiral Kane of the Terran Federation to the Emperor of the Old Empire. We do not serve. We do not bow, and we do not forget. We are the sons and daughters of humanity, and we stand as one. If you seek to test us, come and see." The message spread through the blackout, carried by courier ships and personal transmitters. Every colony, every station, every ship played Kane's words again and again across the galaxy. Humanity found its voice again. In the Imperial Palace, the Emperor watched the broadcast in silence. His generals demanded immediate retaliation, but he raised a hand and smiled. "It has been long since I saw such defiance," he said. "They remind me of what we once were. Prepare the fleet, but not to destroy them yet. I want to see how far they can go before they break." The Emperor turned to his grand strategist, a machine intelligence named Velkar, forged before the fall. Velkar warned him humans adapt faster than predicted. Their technology now matches 70% of Imperial strength. The Emperor replied, "That is why they must be tested to see if they are worthy to stand before me." Meanwhile on Mars, Dr. Holden continued decoding the Emperor's hidden code. She discovered coordinates buried within the signal, pointing to a place beyond known space. A system near the galactic core. She believed it to be the Emperor's true origin, the source of his power. She sent the data to Admiral Kane, who ordered a secret mission to find it before the Empire could react. The ship, named the Odyssey, left under heavy cloak. Only a handful of crew knew its mission. Their goal was simple: find the heart of the Empire and end it. The journey would take them through uncharted territory filled with ancient debris and silent stations, remnants of the old wars as the Odyssey disappeared into the dark. The Emperor's voice returned. One last time, this time directed only to Kane, his tone no longer calm, but filled with quiet threat. You speak with courage, Admiral, but courage will not save your kind. You are dust pretending to shine. Remember this when your sun burns for the last time. Kane listened and answered without fear. We were born in dust, and we learned to make fire. Let us see which burns brighter across the galaxy. Two powers now stood face to face, the Emperor with his ancient fleets and humanity with its rising strength. The war was no longer about conquest, it was about will. Who would break, who would endure? The Emperor's voice faded from the stars, but its echo remained in every heart, pushing both sides toward the next great storm. A war that would decide the fate of the galaxy forever. The galaxy burned with the light of 1,000 wars. Every star became a battlefield. Every world turned into a fortress. The Emperor had unleashed his full might, and humanity answered with everything it had. The War of Suns had begun. From the black core of the Empire came fleets so vast they blotted out the stars, dreadnoughts larger than moons, carriers filled with legions of war machines, cruisers powered by living suns. The Empire called them the Celestial Spears. Weapons that could pierce through planets and ignite their cores. The galaxy trembled as they moved. Across human space, the Terran Federation stood ready. Massive armadas assembled around fortified worlds. The Titan-class carriers stood at the center of their lines, each one a city in space filled with soldiers, engineers, and factories that built weapons even during battle. Admiral Kane commanded from the Titan Atlas, the largest ship ever built by human hands, its hull engraved with the words, "We stand united." The first major clash happened near the binary stars of Charon. The Empire came in silence, no warning, no message. Their ships fired at once, twin stars flaring under the impact. Humanity responded with full fury. Rail cannons thundered. Plasma waves burned through the void, and for the first time the Empire met resistance equal to its own. The two sides collided like living storms. The battle raged for days across burning space. Entire fleets vanished into light, but still they fought. Neither side retreating. The humans adapted their AI networks, learning enemy tactics. Every second the Empire relied on its ancient discipline. Its fleets moving like one mind, while humans fought with chaos and emotion. Yet that chaos confused the enemy, making them unpredictable. Admiral Kane watched from his command deck, surrounded by holograms of fire. He knew this war was not just about ships, it was about survival of belief. The Emperor fought for control, humanity fought for freedom. The difference shaped every decision, every shot, every life lost. Meanwhile, far beyond the front lines, the ship Odyssey continued its secret mission, heading toward the galactic core. The crew, led by Commander Ilara Voss, followed the coordinates hidden. In the Emperor's signal, they passed through dead systems filled with wrecks from forgotten wars, ruins of civilizations erased long ago. They realized the Empire had been fighting even before humanity existed. Back on the battlefield, the Empire released its ultimate weapon, the Celestial Spears, each one aimed at a star. When the first spear struck the sun of Vega, the star exploded into a storm of fire, destroying 3 human fleets and 10 Imperial cruisers. The shockwave rippled across space, leaving a scar of light. Admiral Kane watched the readings and whispered, "They are killing suns." Humanity had to answer with equal firepower. The engineers aboard the Titan Atlas activated the Helios Array, a weapon that turned starlight into a focused beam of pure energy. They aimed it at the heart of the Imperial Armada and fired. The light traveled across millions of kilometers, cutting through armor and ships, turning night into day. An entire fleet vanished. The Empire staggered for the first time in its new age. Across the galaxy, both sides continued to strike. Worlds fell and were reborn, cities turned to ash and rebuilt again. Humanity refused to die. Every colony that burned gave birth to 100 more soldiers. Every defeat became fuel for vengeance. They fought not for conquest, but for every family, every memory, every dream. Dr. Mira Holden from her lab on Mars decoded more of the Emperor's hidden message. She discovered something terrifying. The Emperor's power was not his own. It came from a machine buried near the galactic core, a living network that once controlled all life. She sent the discovery to Admiral Kane, telling him that destroying the Emperor might not end the war. They needed to destroy the machine itself. The Emperor, meanwhile, watched from his throne, his face calm, but his eyes burning. He saw his fleets burning and rebuilding again. He saw humanity's strength growing beyond calculation. He turned to his strategist Velkar, who warned him, if they continue adapting, they will become what we were. The Emperor replied, then we must remind them why we ruled. He ordered the creation of a new weapon, a storm that would erase entire sectors, a pulse that would silence all digital minds. Velkar hesitated, reminding him the weapon would also kill millions of his own subjects. But the Emperor no longer cared. He wanted victory, whatever the cost in human space. Admiral Kane gathered his officers. He knew the final battle was coming. He spoke quietly. The Emperor is desperate. That makes him dangerous, but it also means he can be defeated. This war will decide everything. We fight not for glory, we fight for tomorrow. The fleets began to move again, toward the galactic core, where the Emperor waited, the light of burning suns guiding their way. The galaxy watched as two civilizations, old and new, prepared to meet in the heart of creation, where light and darkness would finally decide who would rule the stars. The war of suns had no mercy, no pause, and no surrender. It was the fire that would forge the future of all life, and in its center, humanity stood unbroken, ready for the end that would change everything. The galaxy held its breath as the human fleets moved through the burning trails of dead stars, their engines glowing like fire against the endless dark. The war of suns had torn the heavens apart, but humanity still stood. Its ships scarred yet unbroken, its spirit harder than steel. Admiral Kane watched the stars ahead, his eyes cold but alive. The final road to the galactic core was open, and he knew this would be the end. Every fleet across the Terran Federation had gathered for this moment, from Mars to Europa, from Titan to the far colonies of Andromeda. They came united under one flag, their weapons charged, their shields ready, their hearts burning with one purpose: to end the rule of the Emperor once and for all. They called it Operation Dawnfall, the final strike of mankind against the Empire that had ruled the stars for ages. At the same time, deep inside the Odyssey, Commander Ilara Voss and her crew reached the edge of the galactic core. What they saw made their hearts freeze. A massive structure, the size of a sun, floating in the darkness, covered in light and shadow. It pulsed like something alive. Dr. Mira Holden's data confirmed it was the core Nexus, the ancient machine that powered the Emperor's empire, the source of his control and his immortality. The Nexus was surrounded by shields made of pure energy, entire storms swirling around it. Ilara knew they could not destroy it alone. They needed the entire fleet to focus fire on. But the Emperor was already there, his dreadnought Leviathan emerging from the storm, larger than any ship ever seen, its armor black like void, its engines burning with the light of stolen suns. From the Leviathan, the Emperor spoke across every channel, his voice deep like thunder echoing through space. You could have joined us, humanity, you could have become eternal. Now you will be erased. Admiral Kane stood firm, his voice steady across the comms. We will never kneel, not to you, not to any empire. We are humanity, and we answer in our own way. The battle began like a storm unleashed. The Emperor's fleets attacked in perfect formation. The humans responded with raw fury. Their ships moved through chaos, their tactics unpredictable. The Atlas led the charge, firing its Helios array once more. Beams of light cut through the dark, burning the Emperor's ships into dust. Yet the Emperor's power was far beyond any one fleet. His dreadnought absorbed energy from dying stars each hit, only feeding it more light. It fired back with a weapon that tore space itself. Entire human fleets vanished, as if erased from existence. Still, the survivors pressed on, refusing to yield. Admiral Kane ordered all ships to focus fire on the Leviathan. Even as their hulls burned, they obeyed. Meanwhile, aboard the Odyssey, Ilara and her team found a way inside the core nexus. They passed through corridors of light and shadow, filled with energy, beings that whispered in forgotten languages, she realized. The Nexus was not just a machine, it was a living entity, a creation of an older race, one that once ruled the stars. Before both humans and the Empire existed, they had built the Nexus to control life, but it had gone beyond them. It had chosen the Emperor as its master doctor. Holden sent one last message to Admiral Kane. If we destroy the Nexus, the Emperor will fall, but the shockwave will destroy everything within this sector. The Admiral answered with calm resolve. Then we make sure humanity lives to see the next dawn. The battle outside reached its peak, thousands of ships locked in combat. The stars themselves dimmed under the fire. The Emperor stood inside the Leviathan, his armor glowing like molten gold. He could feel the Nexus feeding him power. He believed victory was his, but then the Odyssey reached the heart of the machine. Ilara placed the charge, a fusion core designed to overload the Nexus. She hesitated for a second, thinking of all the lives lost, all the worlds burned then. She said quietly, "This is humanity's answer," and pressed the trigger. The Nexus screamed. Light exploded across the void. The Leviathan shuddered, its armor cracking. The Emperor felt the power fading, his connection breaking. He shouted into the void, "You think this ends me? I am eternal." But humanity had already spoken through fire, through sacrifice, through courage. Admiral Kane watched as the explosion spread across the core. He ordered all ships to retreat. Now every vessel turned and fled as the light consumed the Emperor's dreadnought. It shattered into 1,000 pieces. The last thing he saw was the Earth emblem on Kane's ship, shining bright, before everything went silent. The core collapsed on itself, forming a new star. The light spread across the galaxy, reaching every world under the Emperor's rule. His control vanished, and billions of freed minds looked to the sky and saw the dawn of a new age. In the aftermath, the human fleets drifted in silence, thousands dead, millions gone, yet victory was theirs. The Empire had fallen, and humanity had proven that no chain, no throne, and no ancient power could break their will. Commander Ilara Voss and her crew were lost near the core. Their last message carried across time and space. She said, "If anyone hears this, remember, humanity's answer was not to conquer, but to stand and never fall." Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the Atlas, watching the new star rise. He spoke softly to himself. "This is not the end. This is the beginning. The galaxy will remember that humanity stood against the darkness and won. The War of Suns ended, but the legend of humanity had just begun. Their answer was written in fire and stars, and it would echo forever across the endless sky.